A History of English Literature from Earliest Times to 1916 by Arthur Compton-Rickett. Narrated by Anita Saran. Part 1. The Making of English Literature. Old English Heathen Poetry. Beowulf. At the close of the 18th century, this poem was found in a manuscript written about AD 1000. It is essentially a mosaic of pagan tales, blent with a certain basis of historical fact. Possibly, Beowulf himself is not an integral part of the old legend which is found associated with other heroes. About the 8th century, this mosaic is placed in a Christian setting, with which it harmonizes, but ill. Pagan monsters and biblical allusions go oddly together. Probably a monk is the writer who deals last with these legends. Such an explanation would account for the moralizing strain that runs throughout the poem. Beowulf praises God for his gifts to men. There is much to support the contention that this ethical and religious note is of quite late introduction. The poem contains over 3,000 lines and is supposed to be the oldest surviving epic of the Teuton people, anterior to the Scandinavian sagas, and considerably older than the great medieval romances of southern Europe. Its importance for us lies in its emphatic indication that our literature is essentially Teutonic in origin. The story. Beowulf has been not unfairly described as a knight-errant before the days of chivalry. He is a mighty warrior of royal Swedish blood who has not only fought with men but has defied the fiercest storms that have swept over the seas and grappled with the awful sea monsters that inhabit their depths. To the help of the venerable King Hrothgar he comes, whose kingdom has been ravaged by a dreadful monster, Grendel by name. Beowulf meets this monster face to face, and after a terrible fight wounds him to the death. But the monster has a mother, even more fearsome than he. She inhabits the floods, and Beowulf has to descend into these chill and dark waters to find her. The conflict that ensued is more harrowing than the other, and is described with Homeric vigor. Just when he is about to succumb to the fury of her attack, he comes across a huge sword which does the work pretty effectually, and the subsequent proceedings interest this lady no more. Beowulf is not allowed to rest long without a further display of prowess, but he survives a reign of 50 years, well seasoned with valorous deeds, before he meets with a fiery dragon that has been having things all its own way. The dragon is killed, but not before its venomous poison has infected Beowulf. Knowing that his end has come, he speaks to his friend with fine, stoical resignation. I have held the people 50 years. There was not any king of my neighbors who dared to greet me with warriors, to oppress me with terror. I held mine own well. I sought not treacherous malice, nor swore unjustly many oaths. On account of all this, I, sick with mortal wounds, may have joy. Now, do thou go immediately to behold the hoard under the hoary one, my dear Wiglaf. Now I have purchased with my death a hoard of treasures. It will not be yet of advantage at the need of the people. I give thanks that I might before my dying day obtain such for my peoples. Longer may I not here be. The literary style. The literary method is massive and sweeping rather than subtle and varied. The poem is akin to the old sagas, and like them, excels in broad effects and in impressive directness of speech. The crude savagery of the original legends has been transmuted through the various minds brought to bear upon the poem into a fine appraisement of Beowulf's goodness of heart and unselfish devotion to others. He is not merely a man of great physical strength. There is a moral splendor about his character, nor is this side ever lost sight of. Its origin. How was the poem introduced into English literature? It has been suggested that the poem is in its basis a Scandinavian saga. The poem, however, though Scandinavian in its setting, contains no Scandinavian words or phrases. Earl believes that the story of Beowulf was a piece of the prehistoric folklore of which a fresh edition was made in Merovingian Gaul. From Gaul, the story Latinized by some Frankish scholar passed over here and was worked up into the epic. The subject is still debated by scholars, by no means in agreement, but this at any rate affords one explanation to account for inconsistencies in the poem. Its historical value. The picture of social life given us in Beowulf is essentially primitive: to fight valorously, to eat and drink well, to be soothed by music after the day's labor, and then to sleep. The men described are men of few words, brave and loyal where their affections are concerned, but cruel and implacable otherwise. There is no gaiety about them. Life to them is a sombre business. The melancholy of the north is about them. Great emphasis is laid upon the splendor of court life, and for this reason its historical value as a picture of aristocratic society in Saxon times has been commented on by some of the critics. The scenic background is well suited for such men. It is bleak and cold, and the rough and rugged land is swept by storms. We realize here the winds that would be howling at all hours. Whether on sea or land, nature is always in her blackest and fiercest moods. There is no sentiment, no tenderness to relieve the gloom. Fierce animal spirits dominate. But if sombre, there is an austere grandeur about the poem and a fine stoical resignation. The scenes and people are Scandinavian, but the one great vital figure is that of Beowulf. He stands before us as the early English ideal of virile courage and nobility. What Achilles is to the Greek, Romulus to the Roman, Charlemagne to the French, Beowulf is to the Englishman. Beside him, King Arthur is but a shadowy figure.